What is going on, Frenchy Fat family? Welcome back to the channel. So super exciting video for today. We are finally going to be starting the maxxecu wiring for our M54 build. So here I have my E90 in the back. It's a 2009 BMW 335 all-wheel drive. We have an 8 HP kit from Joshua over at Guru Auto Works. Huge shout out to Joshua. But we are running a 8 HP 70X from the N63 engine. We are using the BMW version. We're not using the Dodge version. So we also have our maxxecu setup over here. So we are going to be using the race version. So as you guys can see here, the factory DME used to sit here with the box and everything. We completely deleted that and we 3D printed our own bracket. I'll drop a little clip here for you guys. So that is my bracket. That's something that we designed. We 3D scanned this and everything, and we designed it to have the ECU to sit at a nice angle. Reasoning for is, you know, we're spending a lot of money on these builds, and a lot of the parts sometimes get hidden and you can't see it. So we have a little bit over of a $2,000 ECU, and I don't want to tuck it inside of a glove box, me personally. When I pop the hood, I want people to see what I have in there. That's the point of, you know, having a dope build. So we have our maxxecu and everything set up. It's in position. Not only that, we are going to be using our Audi R8 coils. So the point of today's video is we're just going to be doing the coils. I'm going to do a whole series and everything on how to wire everything, like our vanos. I'll do cam positioning sensors. I'll do all that stuff in separate videos, so that way this can help you guys with your wiring. So I want to get this out now. I'm not a professional automotive wiring. I am an electrician by trade. I do have my associate's degree and everything, but I do mostly industrial and everything wiring. I do industrial, commercial, residential. For those that want to talk shit, just to pop it out there, somewhere there, associate's degree. So it's not like I'm out here talking out of my ass, like I don't know anything. I do know some things. Automotive is a whole new world, but I'm here to work on it with you guys together. So if I do some mistakes or whatever, don't bash me on it. For the professionals out there that do automotive wiring, this is our first time, and I'm just here to help my fellow M54 enthusiasts and our maxxecu guys just learning how to wire some stuff, you know, save some guys some money. Some people like the hobby and they enjoy this stuff and they want to feel like they're part of their own build instead of just purchasing stuff all the time. So I feel like it's gonna be pretty dope. So like I said, we're gonna be doing series. Today's video is just gonna be coil packs. Next video could be injectors. Next video could be sensors. Who knows? We'll see what I feel like doing. But so as you guys know, the stock M54 is notorious for a lot of issues: high pressure fuel pump, injectors, the direct injection, a bunch of stuff, including our factory coil packs. So our factory coil packs are a dump coil. I'm gonna drop a picture of those right now. Those are our factory M54 coil packs. Those are considered a dump coil. So a dump coil doesn't have an igniter inside of it. So that's where our factory ECU comes in, our MSD80s or our MSD81s. They have igniters built in, our drivers. If you guys have MSD80, you guys know that sometimes those fail. MSD81 is supposed to be an upgrade, or you can upgrade the MOSFETs inside MSD80. But even still, MSD81 fails as well, as mine did. So going maxxecu doesn't have drivers built in, so which allows us to run what we call smart coils. So smart coils are still compact depending which ones you go with, and they have their own drivers built in. So that's why they call it a smart coil. If you guys wanted to run the factory coils as the M54 comes with, you would have to buy an external driver, connect that to the maxxecu, and then from the driver to your dummy coil. So it just makes more sense to just go with a smart coil. So with M54s in the aftermarket ECU world, we like to go to our Audi R8s. So these coils, first of all, they look beautiful in the engine bay, super nice and clean. Now, they don't just fit in on the factory thing. So if you guys see this bracket here, shout out to my boy Josh for sponsoring the build. I'm gonna drop his Instagram right here if you guys want to get a set of this plate. That's his Instagram right there. Again, huge shout out. it super cleaned up the build. So I'm gonna post a little bit of a reel that I did on doing a conversion on this. So as you guys can see, a huge difference from the precision racework coils to these. So now that we have our coil packs and everything installed, we see how they're gonna sit. This bracket holds them in the exact position that they are sitting right now. I can't rotate them any other way, which is perfect because with vibration, I don't have to worry about them or looking sloppy out of orientation. So as you guys can see, I do have some wiring and everything already. I already did this ahead of time. So I'm gonna be redoing some of the connectors with you guys. With that being said, so over here, I have a little schematic. I made the schematic myself with a lot of research, and I just sat down and, you know, with boredom and time and everything, I just drew something up. So this is basically a schematic that I drew up. You guys can screenshot this if you guys want, if you guys understand how to read an electrical schematic. This is just something I drew up to help me out. You know, when you have something like that in front of you with wires all over the place, it's super easy to just get sidetracked and lose and not even focus on where to even start. So to me, let's come back to the engine. So to me, learning, or for me, figuring out where to even start, because it's the hardest part. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I know you guys are figuring out the same thing too. Where do I even fucking start? So the easiest part that I can think of is, first of all, where's your ECU gonna sit, right? So some guys are gonna have it inside of the glove compartment. Me, obviously, I have it here. Some guys put it inside the factory DME box that's inside there as well. Okay, so you know where your ECU is gonna sit. So now what you're gonna do is you're gonna grab your harness and you're just gonna lay it on top of the engine. As you guys can see it over there, I have it all taped up. This is the entire harness that connects to the first connector right there. And then I have my, you don't worry about the pink ones, but my main harness is basically resting on the engine. That's the start. Okay, now where do I go? So the first thing that you're gonna see on side of the motor is what? Your coil packs. So why not start on the coil packs? So we'll run our wires and everything to our coil packs. Okay, so now I know my harness cannot move from the coil packs because I'm gonna put stress on my cables. So I know that my harness is gonna end right here. So if you guys see this little loop right here on this blue wire, I give myself some slack because you don't want to put a tight tension on your cables as well. So let's say this is the beginning of my harness. I don't want to crimp my wires or pinch my wires so they're that tight of a tolerance. You want to give yourself some leeway. So if you guys see over here, I have a nice little loop. This is like a good 3, maybe 4 inches of extra wire, and that's just gonna hang on the bottom of the motor. That's to prevent any stress from any of these connectors to the coil pack, so I don't have any problems in the future. So that's where I'm gonna start. This is the first wiring that I'm gonna start from my harness. So from there, I'm gonna come back over to my schematic. So I have my 48 pin main connector, as you guys seen, that's connected to the ECU. The other pin is a 36 one, I believe, or a 32 pin. That's the smaller connector. We're gonna worry about that last. This is our main connector. This is what's gonna power every single thing on that engine, besides for a few things. But so at the beginning of here, the main section that I'm focusing on in the middle of the page is gonna be my coil packs. So I have my coil 1, coil 2, coil 3, 4, 5, and 6, right? So we are using Audi R8 coils, which those are a VAG coil. We're using long style. So this is the connector for it, right? It is a 4-pinned, as you guys can see there, it is a 4-pin connector. So I just picked these up on Amazon. You can pretty much get these anywhere. So now you can get these in 2 options. You can get these with pigtails, or you can get these as blanks, as this one is. So the pigtails already comes with wires hanging out, and what you'll do is you'll butt connect those and crimp them onto your existing harness. Me, I think that looks sloppy. That's good for like if you're tying into like a factory harness, but since we are going from scratch from a fresh ECU wiring harness, we are going to go with our blanks so we can put fresh connectors and it'll be a solid connector. We won't have any butt connectors or any of that stuff in line. So this is our connector, right? Each coil pack has 4 wires, obviously, because it is a 4-pin. So if we read the schematic, my pin 1 for the coil pack is going to be my main power. So that's going to go to my 12 volt, as you guys can see there. And this is just supposed to be a relay box. Don't worry about that. We'll worry about that at the end of all of these series. Over here we have our pin 3. Let's go in order so that way you guys don't get mixed up. So pin 1 is going to be my main 12 volt power source, my switched. And then 2 is going to be a ground. So the ground for these coils, you can wire the Audi coil packs 2 different ways. It depends if you get the long styles or the short styles. Now on the M54 we are using the long styles. So the long styles, I'm going to drop a little diagram right now. So as you guys can see, pins 2 and 4 is going to be our ground. So now that goes to your cylinder head or your engine block. Make sure you do not connect any of the grounds from the coil packs to the body. Has to be connected to the engine. The reason is because the body on the M54s, we have everything connected onto there. So we have our computers, we have our water pump, we have all these modules, all these computers and everything that's just going to create noise. So you want to connect your grounds to your cylinder head or the engine block. So pins 2 and 4 are going to go to your ground, as you guys can see here, ground engine. So if you guys see the schematic that comes down, all the dots that you see is where a terminated point is. And then over here we have a couple other things on there, but that's all besides the point. Today we're just focusing on that part. And then last but not least, pin 3. So pin 3 is going to be your ignition. So that is going to come from the signal from the ECU. So our ECU on the maxxecu has 8 ignition outputs. It supports up to an 8-cylinder. We are only using 6. So on my harness, I deleted the 7 and 8 wire. So you're going to go in order. You're going to have an ignition cable for coil 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So make sure you guys keep those in order. On the maxxecu itself, here's the extra wires that I ended up trimming off because they were too long for my needs. They are labeled. You can't really see them. Yeah, because it doesn't want to focus. It doesn't want to focus, but either way, oh, there we go. So that one says cylinder 3 or whatever the fuck it is. So each wire coming from the maxxecu will tell you exactly what cylinder it's supposed to go to. So at the beginning of the engine, we have cylinder 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So our ignition cable for 1 is going to go here, obviously, and then for the rest of them as well. So we have all that. So if we come over here to our coil pack, you guys can see what I have going on here. So I have been yelled at about this already. So my coils, or my output for 4 and 2, those are my grounds. So what I did was I just looped them together and I ran a thicker gauge. So now this is just temporary. The thicker gauge wire I'm actually going to put on number 4. The only reason I have it like that is just so I can get the loop nice and even, so they all match the same length. So number 2 is just going to be like a regular ground. Number 4 is going to be your heavy duty ground. So that's what's going to need the main thickness of your gauge wire. So I have just the maxxecu comes with a bunch of spare wires and everything, so you guys can use to wire your stuff up as your sensors. I have some more grounds over here. I have some more over here. The maxxecu comes with all of this spare wire, so you guys don't have to worry about it. If you guys did want to order some spare wire, make sure you guys buy the proper stuff. I believe this stuff is like TXL wire or something like that. It's like a special automotive wire to handle a high temperature and everything, so it doesn't become brittle and crack over time. So yeah, like I said over here, I just looped the coils over here. Eventually these two are going to touch eventually. I've seen people on YouTube where they put the wires up here and then they'll mate them together here, and then they'll put a crimp and then they'll put one wire going over there. I want to eliminate as much as possible of what we can run through here to keep a nice clean look. Now, is it going to work? I don't know. Should it work theoretically on paper? Yes, because these two are going to end up at the same exact point anywhere you connect it to. So I might as well just connect it here and keep a nice clean tight harness. So we're going to test it. Just keep that in mind. it is recommended where you run both cables to your terminating point. So let's say we're going to ground it right here on this stud. Both these wires should end up at that stud on one terminal. I'm not going to do that. I want to test this out, keep a nice clean look. So I'm going to put this thicker gauge wire over here. So I believe the wires that come with the maxxecu, it is a 16 gauge wire for the thicker stuff, and then for the thinner stuff I believe it's 20 gauge. So I used a 20 gauge to go from 2 to 4, and then, well, let's go backwards because this is what it's supposed to be. So I went from 4 to 2, so those are my 2 grounds, and then on the 2 I also put that 16 gauge wire as my main ground going out. So it's a thicker wire so it can handle both the ground loads. The number 4 is just going to be your main discharge for your ground. Number 2 is just like to clean up the interference, noise, and all that stuff. So it's not really nothing crazy where you need a thicker gauge cable for it. As far as my power cable for my 12-volt feed, I also used the 16 gauge that came with the maxxecu. And you guys can see the blue on pin number 3. That is my ignition cable coming from the ECU. So that is for cylinder 1. So throughout this wire, you should be able to read it. Let's see if it will focus. It says cylinder 1. Yep, there we go. Cylinder 1 on that blue cable. So I know that goes to my ignition 1. So like I said, I already got ahead of the game. I wired up these coil packs. So I just wanted to show you guys what it's going to look like. Now we're going to actually come over here to the connector, and I'm going to wire one up with you guys. So I ordered some spare specifically for this reason, so I can show you guys how to do it. As far as the connectors, like I said, you can get these on Amazon. They do come with the little sleeves, the seal sleeves, and they come with the pins inside. They do not come with the tool. So let's get everything out. So I also went on Amazon. You can pretty much get everything that you need from Amazon. Now, with this car, a lot of these connectors and everything are special, and they're going to use special pins. Whenever we get to those sections for whatever sensor we're working on, I will let you know if you have to order special pins or not for it. For instance, like just for shits and giggles, like these cam position sensors, yeah, they need special pins. They also need a special connector. But the Vano solenoids, these connectors up here, you can get these on Amazon. Coolant temp or pressure switch, Amazon. You can get those all day, every day. But those other ones, yeah. Anyways, we're getting off track. That's for another video. So I also went on Amazon. I just searched up a random terminal kit, the one that came with the most pieces, obviously, because it's more for your money. I don't know if this was going to work. I didn't know if it was going to work. I just ordered it just to have it. It has a whole bunch of different selections, so at least one of them had to work for what I was doing. And I got lucky. Turned out we did. So we're going to come into the kit. Our kit comes with a bunch of different terminals that goes to various different connectors. I can't tell you which ones they go for, but whenever you order your connectors or whatever, the pins that they come with, you can come in here and match them. For our Audi R8 coils, this ended up being our pins. So a lot of people tell you that you have to make sure these pins are rated and everything, that don't get them off Amazon, that they're cheap. Bro, they're all made the same. It's a copper and they're all plated with some tin. So I'm trying to get this thing to focus. It doesn't like the shiny, and especially in the lighting in my shop. But this is the pin that they come with. And like I said, I just came inside here my kit. I tried to find which one matched it, and it ended up being this one. So I have plenty in here. So if you do make a mistake or whatever, you don't have to order this connector again just to get this. You can just order these pins. And if you wanted just specifically that pin, that is the number for it. So it's a 623-E3.5. That is the connector that goes into the Audi R8 coils. Not only that, you also have your seals and everything here. This is all for your wires. They came with the blue ones, but it doesn't matter which color. What you're looking for is which one's going to fit the gauge of your wire. You want a nice tight fit. So for our usage, we're going to be using the blue ones. That was a perfect fit. It also comes with tools and everything, so you can depin your connectors, which we are going to have to depin that. So when we go to put our wire loom and everything, that's going to be more on the last. We're not going to be looming that up right now, unfortunately. I still have to make terminations and connections and everything. So we have our connector here. I think we should start off with pin number 1. Let's go in order. So pin number 1, if we come back over here, pin number 1 for our ignition coils is labeled here 1, 2, 3, and 4. So each wire is going to go to somewhere. So if we follow pin 1 again, it's going to lead us to our 12-volt switch. So what 12-volt switch means is you have 12 volts in a car and you have 12 volts switched. So when you have the car off, you have no power at that cable, right? The cable should be dead. You should be reading 0 volts. As soon as you turn on the key for the car and you turn on the accessories and everything, when the car is like on, that 12 volts should be active. So that is what your switched means. So when that key is turned on and your lights and your dash and everything's turned on, that's when your 12 volts should be active and present. So let's start it. Alright, you guys, so like I said, we are going to be starting on pin number 1. I wanted to show you guys some of the tools. So I got this tool on Amazon. Basically is just crimpers. When you purchase these kits and everything, it says, would you like to other people have purchased this one as well? These are the actual crimpers for it. You can get away with some pliers if you guys want to spend extra money on the special tools. You guys can also get this one as well for like your smaller pins, which we will be needing in the future for our other connectors. But I end up using both of these as well. Some wire strippers will be nice as well. This one comes with a set on there, but they're not that great. So I'm old-fashioned. I like to use a pair of dikes. And then I just got a couple of small sections of wire here. We're not going to be wiring an exact harness. It's just going to be some pigtails, and then we'll reference it to our actual harness. So you're just going to be stripping down a little bit. So before I actually strip, I want to show you guys the knowledge on how much to strip. So if you guys look at your connector here, you guys can see how there's 2 wings that sit up. Oh, this camera's actually doing really good on right now. So you guys can actually see the 2 wings. So your wire is going to sit something like that. If you guys can see where it starts to bottleneck right there, your wires are not going to go in through there anymore. So it's going to bottleneck eventually. So you want to put your wires to there. So your stripped section, where you want to strip your wires, should be right here where my nail is at. This part of the connector is going to actually crimp onto the copper, while this longer wing on the end is going to crimp on the insulation of the cable to hold it. So now this crimp back here is going to keep the stress from being pulled away from your actual copper over here where your electrical point is going to be. So we're just going to get a good idea of how much to strip. It's going to come into our wire strippers. Going to go around real nicely, and then we'll strip it. I like to turn them so that way when I go to put them inside of the connector, I don't have little hairs hanging out. You want a nice clean connection. We're going to go into our terminal, and we're going to guide our wires in real nicely. So now this is something that's going to take some time. You know, you don't want to rush this. You want to make sure all of your connections are nice and solid. So if we look, that is how we're looking. So I like to stick the copper past these wings a little bit, so when I actually do a crimp, your copper's on the little hairs that's hanging on the outside basically going to bloom open like a flower, and that's also going to help to prevent from just doing this. You don't want that to happen. If your wire pulls out like that, you have a weak connection. So we're going to put our wires in place. Something that I like to do to help me, because right now if I were to put this connector inside of my crimper, it's going to be a little bit of a pain in the ass because the wires are going to want to move. Like, see, it's just basically going to fall off. So what I like to do is put my wire in place, hold it with my nail just to guide it in, and then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bend these tabs over on top of the insulation, just like that. So as you guys can see, that's what it's going to end up doing on the tool, except I did it with my hands just to hold it in place. So now that connector can't really go anywhere. It's not strong. It's just enough to hold it in place, so when I put it inside of my crimp tool, it doesn't get out of position. So now we're going to come to our crimp tool. You have different gauge sizes and everything on there. So we're going to go to our bottom section. We're going to put it in place, and I'm going to line it off of camera real quick just so you guys can see. So on top of the tool, we're going to line up the end of the crimp. So if you guys can see our connector, this is how it's looking. We're lining it up to the bottom of the big square, just like that. And then down at the bottom, you'll see where our crimp pieces are going to end up inside of the tool. So now we're going to crimp it, and we're going to press it all the way down. We're going to force it until she's fully closed, just like that. So there's no more left in it. We're going to release it, and we should have a crimp. So this is what the tool does. It crimped it pretty nicely, but I'm still not comfortable with it. You're supposed to do stages. Now this tool doesn't have the other stages for this, unfortunately, but if you guys have a good look, you guys can see the insulation part of the crimp is held on real nicely. So it bit inside the insulation, so it has a nice strong grip. Where it actually bit into the copper, if you guys can see, it sort of looks like a woman with a dress, if that makes sense. So you see her hips on top nice and tight, and then it starts to flare out at the bottom. So this tool specifically, it's not meant for this connector exactly. So this is where you have to take your time. So now we're gonna come in with our other connector, and I'm just gonna finish the bottom section right here where it's not fully crimped down. So you have to look at it, pay attention to it, because one of these wings are underneath the other. So if you guys can see, this top one on my side is actually underneath this bottom one. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna finish crimping that. So I'm gonna come in, I'm gonna just give it a little squeeze to go down, just like that. And then I'm gonna squeeze them in together. So I'm gonna finish sliding it underneath the other one. And then I'm gonna come into my new crimp tool, which is a little bit smaller, and I'm going to just button those up real nicely. So I'm just gonna give it a little more of a squeeze. Just like that. So now I have a lot tighter of a bite on the copper, if you guys can see that. So now you want to do yourself a little tug test. Make sure that doesn't come out. If it doesn't come out, we are solid. So this is a nice solid connection. So now we are also missing our sleeve. So you can put your sleeve before, as long as the end of your wire is non-terminated. So like this is an open loop, so I can easily come in here and then put my sleeve on, and then we'll bring it over. So now this sleeve is actually supposed to be crimped on here as well. I do not like to do that because if you guys can see, the crimp is already nice and tight on there. When you add this silicone on there, which I've already tested this, it actually rips the silicone when you try to get a good bite on the insulation. So me personally, I never like to crimp these onto there myself. What I like to do is just crimp it just like that, bite the actual insulation of the cable, not the silicone, because in my opinion, when you bite the silicone, as you guys can see how slippery this stuff is, right? It's not a real grippy material. So it's super easy for the insulation to just slip underneath the silicone. What your ears are focused on biting is the silicone, not your actual cable. So I like to bite them onto insulation like that and then slide the sleeve over. So that's all you need. It all depends on the connector that you need, that you're crimping. So now we're gonna come over here, we're gonna insert it into our connector. So for these style connectors, you guys can see how that pin sits. So basically you have your square up here, and then you have your pin. So it's gonna be flat at one point. The way they get inserted inside these is, if you look over here, they have basically a cross, right? So these two crosses up here going up and down are to relieve your lock pins. So if you guys see these wings hanging out, that's how the actual pin locks into the connector. So the way they get inserted is you have to go in sideways. So just like that. If you go upside down or like that, it won't get inserted. It won't lock into place. So that's all it's going to do. So basically you put it to the side, and then you insert it, and then you should be able to hear it to click. If you guys come inside here, you guys can see how it aligns. You guys can focus on just the one. You want to align it into place, and then you're gonna hear for the click. So we're gonna finish putting it in just like that. So if you guys hear the click, and you guys can see our pin is real nice and straight inside there. If you guys can't get the pin in, that means that this is not straight. It might be at a little bit of an angle. So just look at it this way while you push it in. So perfect, we have pin 1, that's our positive. So now we are going to be moving to our next pins, which is our ground. So just for reference, we're gonna go back to our sheet. So we're gonna be grounding pins 2 and 4. So we're gonna be doing just the separate wires. I'm not gonna do the loop version, how I did on my harness, just because I'm not sure if it would work or not. I'm gonna show you guys how it's supposed to be. So let me get some ground cable. All right, you guys, we have some grounds. Again, we're gonna strip our cable. we're gonna put our sleeve in. So put our one. And then we're gonna go ahead and grab one of our pins. We're gonna put it in position. So now this gauge wire is a little bit smaller, so it actually goes inside that tunnel. So we'll be able to put it inside there. And this one's a lot smaller as well, so we're going to have to definitely bend these tabs over to hold that wire in position. So just like that. Now we can go to our crimp tool. We're gonna put it in. We're going to line up the end of our square, just like that. Again, nice and flush, and we're gonna do a nice crimp. So now this gauge is a lot smaller. We already had issues with it crimping the thicker gauge wire, or 16 gauge wire. This is a 20 gauge. So we are definitely going to have to give this one some love as well. So again, look for which ear is underneath the other, which again, our top one is underneath our bottom. So we're gonna go ahead and give that a little bit of a squeeze as well. We're gonna squeeze it down so it wants to focus to go underneath the other. So we have that one pushed down. Now we're gonna slide them above each other so they slip over. Hopefully you guys can see that. Just like that. And then we are going to give it a finished crimp. Just like that. Now we're out of focus. Oh, that one's nice and crimped, and we're also going to have to do the installation part as well. Alright, so we have a nice solid connection now. So again, do your tug test. Make sure she doesn't go anywhere. And I'm pulling pretty hard. It's just hard to tell on camera. But trust me, I'm making sure that my own connections are solid. So yeah, she's not going anywhere. So there goes our ground. Again, we're going to come with our sealing sleeve. And then we can just slip that over. We're going to grab our connector. And what pin was that? We're going to go to pin 2. So pin 2 is going to use our smaller gauge wire. So we'll pop that bad boy in. And again, we're gonna come in here. We're gonna try to guide that pin nice and straight if you guys can see it. We're gonna listen for a click. Just like that. So now we have our sleeve. Now this gauge is a little bit smaller. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna grab yourself a little bit of a stick, and you're going to shove that sleeve down in there so it seals a little bit better. Just like that. No biggie. Now, our next ground is going to be number 4. So number 4 is going to use our heavier gauge ground. So we're going to go ahead and grab ourselves another number 16 gauge. So we can do our number 4 to have our heavy ground. That's to release all of the main power. This is just a signal ground to get rid of any noise or to keep the signal nice and clean inside of the coil pack. And then number 3 is going to be our ECU signal. So let's get some 16 gauge wire for 4. Here we go again. Let's strip that bad boy. Hopefully you guys are enjoying this. This is the first time I ever actually do a wire or wiring video or anything like this. I love wiring. I've been doing it since I was a kid. I don't know how I learned it. I just picked it up when I was a kid. And you know, just like every electrician always tells you, they used to take their toys apart and everything. Yeah, that was me. I used to take my toys apart when I was a kid, and for some reason I just understood it. 9 years old, I just understood electricity, how everything worked. So again, we put our 16 gauge wire in there. We folded up our tabs to hold the insulation so our connector can't fall off. We're going to go ahead and put it inside of our crimp tool. We're going to line up the connector up top so we don't accidentally pinch the piece. And we're going to do a nice crimp. Again, this tool doesn't crimp it really nicely. I'm sorry if I'm sounding repetitive. I just want to make sure you guys are comfortable and understand this. So again, we're looking for the piece that underlays the other one. Again, it's the top piece that goes underneath. So we're going to finish crimping that one down. I'm trying to get you guys in camera. Crimp that one down. If you guys can see, it's underneath the other one completely now. So now we're going to head and squeeze those two pieces together so they slide over, they overlap each other, just like that. And then we are going to crimp. nice solid bite. Now we have to do the same thing to the insulation. Just like that. And just like that. So there we have a solid connection right there. So again, do your tug test. Always do the tug test. Make sure she doesn't come out. I'd rather it come out now than later on in the future I have a loose connection and she starts arcing, or I lose a coil pack and possibly blue bone motor. So we're going to put our sleeve. It's a good idea to get a good habit of putting the sleeve in. I'm not doing it right now because I know the end of my wire is open, but it's a good habit to put that sleeve in before you crimp your connector. So there's that. We're going to go to our connector number 4 because this is our thicker gauge cable. And we are going to insert it again. We're going sideways with the connector. It doesn't matter if you go inwards or outwards, as long as it's sideways and your locking wings are facing up and down. So we're going to slide that in. We're going to come to the side of the connector and we are looking for our alignment. If you guys can see in there, it's actually crooked, so it's not going to go in. Now it's coming in straight, and we're listening for that click. Just like that. So there we have pins 1, 2, and 4. So now all we're missing is a signal for number 3. So again, our insulation for the wire is hanging out a little bit. So we're gonna go ahead and grab a pin, and we're just gonna stuff it down in there. Get a nice seal. So now let's get some blue wire so you guys can reference as if it was the maxxecu, and let's get that pin number 3. All right, you guys, so we have our blue, and believe it or not, I just went to go grab a random blue one off of the chair. As you guys seen all the blue ones that I had from the spare stuff that we cut off the maxxecu hanging. That's all the spare wire that we cut off. Believe it or not, but I actually grabbed the cylinder 1 wire, which is perfect, so we can reference in order. So as you guys can see on the maxxecu cables, every single cable is labeled on where they're supposed to go. So this one says ignition cylinder 1. So we have it all opened up. We're gonna grab ourselves a pin, and if you guys want to see the pin connector where I'm grabbing from, again, this is the pin that we ended up using for this connector. Okay, so apparently when I went to show you guys the fucking pins, I accidentally stopped recording. So we got the blue wire and everything crimped up. We got it installed. It's just a repeat process of everything else. You guys didn't really miss anything. So what I was explaining when I realized I wasn't recording was, we have our 2 grounds. These go to cylinder head ground. We have our blue ECU output. This is our ignition. So this is what's gonna tell our coil to fire. And then we have our 12-volt switched. So this is gonna go to a 12-volt relay or fuse or something that we're gonna put in line inside of our build. We'll get to that at some point. But what I was saying was, basically what I ended up doing on my harness on my car was I grabbed this ground for number 2, and I basically just looped it inside number 4, just like that. So that's why I put the thicker gauge on number 4, so it can handle the load of both those grounds. So to me, there is no difference on doing this loop than doing this, because at some point in the cylinder head, these 2 wires are going to end up together. So now I get the whole theory on, you know, voltage drop and resistance in wiring and everything, but that is why you double up in wiring, so you don't, or double up the size and the gauge of the wire, so that way you don't have that resistance. If I were to put both these 2 wires onto a 20 gauge wire, then I could understand maybe some problems going on there, but that is why I put the thicker gauge wire, and I wanted something clean, so that's why I did a loop. Now I also didn't do a tight loop, because when I go to put heat shrink or my sheathing or anything over that, it's going to be hard to get this long tight loop to do something like this real nicely. That's going to look a lot cleaner when I go to put the mesh over it. So like I said, to me, I really see no difference in doing this, because now later on in my harness, I'm going to have to put a crimp here somewhere. So now the crimps are going to be nice and bulky, and that's going to look kind of sloppy inside of my engine harness, I think. So let me show you guys what those crimps will look like too. All right, you guys, so when you guys go to do a crimp inside of your harness, where you have to take one wire and blow it out to a bunch of other different connections, which you will have to at some point, there's no way around it. This is one of the ways that a lot of professional wiring harnesses use. is basically just like a joint connector. It's nice and compact, they're small. Basically these are better than like soldering. You can solder it, so now you added a weak point into the copper, you heated it up, you're also heating up the insulation and everything, and it's going to become very, very brittle compared to what it was supposed to be. So now if you were to just strip these wires and then put them all together and then lay them inside one of these connectors, one of these U joints, if you guys see how they look, lay your wires in there according to whatever gauge you guys are using for this, and then grab yourself your crimping tool and crimp them together. You don't put no heat into the cable, you don't have any solder in there, which adds resistance, and it's just going to be a cleaner install. So that is why I ended up looping the ground on my build, but you guys can do whatever you guys like. Like I said, me, in my opinion, I don't see a difference on what it's going to actually do. This is still going to the same exact position. It's going to the cylinder head, this is going to the cylinder head. Put it to here, they're both still going to the cylinder head, just on a thicker gauge wire to carry a load for both. So let's see what happens. Like I said, I'm not a professional, but I'm, you know, in theory, in paper, it sounds legit. But that is a pigtail. That is how you wire up the Audi R8 coils for our N54 for maxxecu. On maxxecu's website, they also have the diagram as well for this. They show you that pins 2 and 4 are cylinder head ground, pins 3 is your ignition coming from the ECU, and pin 1 is for power. Now, keep in mind that is for the long style coils, which is the Audi R8. For the short style coils, I believe pin number 2 is going to be your 12-volt power. So make sure whatever coil pack you guys are using, it doesn't specifically have to be for the M54. You guys could be doing it on Audi or Volkswagen or something. Just make sure you guys are using the right coil pack. Like I said, for our build, we're using the long bag style coils on our M54. So we're gonna come over here, and this is our coil harness. So exactly what we did on that bench over there with you guys is already installed into the car. So now here's where we get to further explanation. So we have all of our cylinder head grounds, and we also have all of our powers for the coil packs. Now I can't wire the coil packs just yet for the power, because I still have other things inside the engine that I have to wire as well. Like some of these sensors need 12 volts, as you guys can see here. These need 12 volts. This is gonna need 12 volts. Another sensor is gonna need 12 volts. So I can't tie these wires directly to my 12 volt just yet, because I have to tie other sensors and everything into that also. So that is why I said this is all gonna be in sections. But this is the main section that you guys are looking for today, just for coil packs. So here we have our wires. Everything is, we use Captain tape, whatever you call this stuff. So it's basically high heat resistance electrical tape. You can find this stuff on Amazon dirt cheap. You can get like 4 of these rolls for like 20 bucks. And it's good stuff for wiring. It keeps it all nice and tight. It doesn't leave any crazy sticky residue like electrical tape. And yeah, that good stuff. So we have all of our wires coming over here. Like I said, give yourself some leeway, some extension. We have all of our grounds. So now all of our cylinder head grounds are going to get tied together for the coil packs, and they're going to be put on a terminal. And you can basically tie it up to any bare metal onto the cylinder head. You can even do it to the engine block. Just make sure you don't do it to the body harness. A lot of people do it to the body harness, and that interferes with noise. That's where you start getting issues and misfires and stuff with your coil packs. The reason you don't want to do that is because these engines on the M54 only have one ground strap. And if you guys know, it goes right there. You guys can see my ground strap. I have a 0 gauge upgrade already. It only has one ground strap to these engines, and it goes right onto the driver's side motor mount. So factory, they come with that braided shit. Get rid of that. Get yourself a 0 gauge wire upgrade, and it'll be so much better. And I'm gonna actually be installing another one, because for what this engine does and how many sensors and everything else, for one ground strap, that's kind of crazy to me. So I'm gonna be adding another one to the passenger side just to help it out. So like I said, finding grounds for your coil packs, you can go to anywhere metal on the engine. So if you guys, I have a forward-facing intake manifold. So if you guys come over here, this is where the factory injector rails used to get bolted to. You can mount it onto there. Here you guys can see. There's a mounting point there on the cylinder head, another one there. This is basically just the spots that used to hold the injector rails. Now, I don't want to put it there because I don't want to have a harness just hanging out here all dirty. I want to keep this harness, everything nice and compact and clean. So what I'm actually going to do is, if you come inside here, the brackets that used to hold down the actual direct injection system, those actually have bolt downs as well. So there's 1, there's 2, and there's going to be 3. You guys can see it right there. So that is the one that I'm going to be using. So I'm going to be grabbing all of my grounds. I'm going to tie them together, and I'm going to run a thicker gauge ground. I'm probably going to run like maybe a 14 gauge or a 16 gauge wire. We'll see. I have to do the math and everything. And then I'm going to tie it right into that stud right there. So I'm going to clean that up with some Scotch-Brite, make sure I have some nice clean bare metal, and that is where my ground is going to be mounted for my coil packs. When you go to do the ground for the ECU as well, now that we're talking about the grounds, your ground for the ECU does not get tied to the body neither. That also gets tied to the cylinder head. You don't want any noise on there. So you have to remember, we have the EKPM or whatever, fuel pump module. We have CAN bus data that runs through all of the grounds on the body. You have the water pump modules. You have the alternator, because all that runs on through a special reading, which maxxecu also requires that little board, the BSD board, which that'll be its own separate video, but it's literally a tiny little board. I don't know where the fuck I put that board. I hope I didn't lose it, because that little shit was like $100. But anyways, yeah, the body and everything has so much things going on that is just going to introduce noise and everything through the ground. So you want to keep it as clean as possible. So the engine block is the biggest thing of metal. So that's where all of the noise and everything can go through real nicely. You don't have to go through sheet metal or tin metal or anything. Not only that, the body of the E90, most of it is like aluminum, some of it's steel and stuff like that. So you have a bunch of different resistance and everything going through ground. So the cleanest way is just a ECU ground to cylinder head, coil packs ground to the cylinder head. And then some of your sensors are going to require a special ground which only go through the ECU, which is going to be inside of your harness as well. Special ECU ground. They're called sensor grounds. So keep those in mind whenever you're wiring that. But I would explain that to you guys whenever we're going to be doing to that point. So hopefully this helped you guys out today. Now we also have to clean this up. If we come over here, I do have a couple of things that I have been ordering. This is all just, you know, learning while as we go. So I have a couple of things of heat shrink here. So what size is this? So this is 1/4 inch. This is the heat shrink. This is what I'm going to be using for the coil packs. So basically, at the end where it's coming out of my pigtail, wherever it ends up, that should be plenty for these 4 wires. And then it's a 3-to-1 shrinkage rate. So that should be beautifully. I originally ordered this stuff, this 1.5 inch heat shrink for the main harness. The thicker loom once it goes back to the ECU, but that stuff is way too fucking big. So I just ordered 1 inch. That thing should be perfectly fine. Now over here we also have some. This one's open already. Again, all this stuff you can get on Amazon. I ordered this stuff over here. This is 16. Yeah, this one's already closed. This one's a 16-inch braided expandable tubing. So this is that nice nylon stuff that you see when people make their professional harnesses, and you get some nice harnesses. This is a 1/8, so I ordered this one for the coil packs. It's a little bit thicker. The 1/16 ones I mostly ordered for the injectors. There's only going to be 2 smaller wires that go through this stuff. What is this one? This is a 1 inch braided. This is going to be for the main harness that goes to the ECU. And yeah, so just stuff like this. When I go to actually do this stuff on video, I'll show you guys exactly what sizes it is. But unfortunately on this video, we won't be doing any wiring loom, because like I said, I still had to make ties and everything into the rest of my 12-volt switch. But other than that, I hope it helped you guys understand a little bit of the wiring and feel a little bit more comfortable. It's just 1 wire at a time. Take your time, 1 wire at a time. When you start doing all 5, 6, 8 different wires all at the same time, that's where you start to confuse yourself and you make mistakes. Just take your time, 1 wire at a time. And like I showed you guys before, where do I even start? Lay that harness out and just see where she wants to go. Let it flow. And then me personally, I like to wire management, so I like to keep everything nice and clean, compact as possible, use as less wires as possible when possible. and just make sure everything's nice and straight. You guys can see here on my harness how I have everything orientated. I have all of my green wires together, all of my blue wires together, all of my gray wires running together. I like to keep everything nice and clean. So I'm not a newbie at wiring, but I'm also not a professional. So I'm just here to work with you guys and make it through together. So we're trying to get our build back on the road. This is my baby, and we're trying to shoot for some big power. So other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Appreciate you guys for sticking around. If you guys have any tips for me, try not to bash me. Like I said, I'm not a professional at this. I'm just a guy in the garage with his own car and trying to do his own things and trying to help you guys. You guys been here from the beginning. You guys supported the channel, and you guys are the ones that kept pushing me to do what I'm doing today. So I appreciate you guys, and stick around for the next one. I think we're gonna do injectors next. So that's the next one in line. See you guys on the next one.